What a glorious weekend morning it is here from the Kickback Studios in New York City, the greatest city in the world. And I am David Gass with you for First Touch 26, our daily World Cup show, every single day live at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time and via podcast whenever you want to listen. And I hope you are smiling along with us as we are ready for a weekend of World Cup action and a big day for the U.S. men's national team. And I'm lucky enough today to be joined by my homie, Michele Giannone. A long reach for this one. No Matt Doyle, no Susanna Fuller. Jordan
he's on a yellow where he's resting.
Yeah, Jordan Angeli's coming down to join us in a little. Eric Krakow will be with us in a couple days as well. But just the two of us here coming off yesterday's USMNT postgame and into what will be a full show for us. So we will talk, of course, about the U.S., who have won the group for the third time ever, second time since 2010, third time since 1930 when they originally did it. We're getting a lot of 1930 stats, which is like always a good thing. When you get compared to basically the sport being a totally different sport, it normally means you're in pretty rarefied air. So we'll talk about the U.S.-Australia a little more, but obviously the big news coming off the Turkey-Paraguay game that the U.S. has clinched the top spot in the group, and we know what their road will look like, at least from a location point of view, going forward. We'll talk about Turkey, Paraguay. We will talk, of course, about the Brazil and Morocco results and Haiti's elimination. Then we will dig into some stats. And then, of course, we'll get you previewed for the day to come. We have action coming from Group E and Group F. We'll see Germany on the field in what will be their real first test. We're going to see Japan and the Netherlands, if they can recover their form. And, of course,
Ecuador.
Hervé Renard back on the sideline for a World Cup game. Yeah, Ecuador, it's a big day for them as well. So we'll talk through all of that as we go along. But let's start with where we stand right now. So we come out of Group D play yesterday, and it was, as I said, a historic day for the U.S. men's national team. It was a 2-0 victory over Australia in their opening game, or in their second game. We knew it would be tough. We knew it would be a little bit more difficult than it was in the opening game. It was the case. It was an all-time atmosphere. Everyone I've heard from who was in the Pacific Northwest over the last, 72 hours, 96 hours has talked about the atmosphere, the environment around the city. We have now seen the earthquake meter around the Alex Freeman goal that actually went off. Like, we're in Marshawn Lynch territory for U.S. soccer, which is as historic as it can be. And the U.S. comes into the day sitting on top of the group in Group D action. This is our North American soccer segment presented by soccer.com. Carry the crest as you represent your team this summer. You'll find the widest selection of World Cup gear at soccer.com. Get a free Gold Club membership with the purchase of any World Cup jersey using code Kickback. As a reminder, Gold Club is the longest running and largest soccer loyalty program in the country, providing members with a lifetime of savings and rewards on their favorite soccer gear. Now's the time to buy. Buy low, right? Buy low. The U.S. is not low right now, but they're closer, as we saw on top of the group in Group D action. And I mean, I've got a list of stuff here, Michele, of like, first time they've done this, first time they've done this. We tried to give some voice to it yesterday, but we are in pretty unprecedented territory for the U.S. men's national team.
One of the main things that I wanted to focus yesterday, it's how, and I asked this Doyle post first game, it's like, what were you expecting from Seattle and the crowd?
Right.
And I had no doubt, and we saw it, pre-game, during the game, and post-game. I truly believe, and I have had the opportunity to cover this team for years and been in a lot of games. I truly believe this is the best crowd of an USMNT game ever.
Yeah.
When you put everything in together, the build-up, the morning of the game, it's a noon game, during the game, post-game, the whole stadium singing with the players, Country Road or whatever that's.
Take me
is that
home,
a title?
Take me home. Yeah, it's called Country Road.
Country
West
Road,
Virginia, baby.
And now you see this morning on social media tweets from people that are discovering the USMNT, discovering soccer in this country. And I saw a couple ones that it was a kid kicking a soccer ball in a yard, and the tweet was like, my 7-year-old baseball obsessed kid, now all he wants to do is kick a ball and scream that he's Flo Balogun. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been craving for in this country. And I know it's pretty easy to finally say and be a prisoner of the moment, to say this might be finally the watershed moment that this country has been waiting for. We're talking about soccer and soccer culture, but you really, really, really feel it right now in the street, on social media, on TV, on spaces like this. I think this is it. And now we know that the third game doesn't mean anything for points, but it's gonna be. I hope that game it's an opportunity to enjoy it.
Yeah.
As a party.
Right.
And now no pressure. Let's just enjoy it and for the momentum to keep building. And now looking ahead to what a possible matchup on the round of 32, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's people are starting to believe. And I told you this before. If you asked me 2 weeks ago, what do you think is the ceiling? What if you think is the ceiling of this group? I would have had a really hard time saying quarterfinals. Now I believe it.
Yeah.
And it's really, really nice.
Yeah. To give fans the celebration, they've had 6 goals across 2 games. We said it yesterday. 7 goals in a World Cup is the U.S. men's national team record. So in 2 games, they're 1 goal away from tying the record from 2002, where they went to a quarterfinal. And that's what it took to get all the way there. And the U.S. has cooked in the 2 games so far. It's the second time since 1930 that they've scored multiple goals in the first half of the first 2 games. Again, we were talking about a time when like the ball was made of cow and weighed 516 pounds and was like a completely different reality. And so that's the space this team is in right now. And as you said, it gives people hope. It makes people excited. It extends the experience. Like everyone knows now, you're in for 2 more weeks at a minimum. June 25th is going to be the next game. July 1st is going to be the round of 32. So from now until July 1st, the U.S. men's national team is top headline story. That is a really long runway for a team that has struggled to find relevance outside of its bubble for a long time. And as we both know, soccer has made it in America. It's finding a cohesion of like one thing that people follow. Like, yeah, you take a weekend and if you grab the Liga MX viewership and you grab EPL and you grab Bundesliga and you grab MLS and NWSL and you combine it all together, it's a big number.
Yeah.
But those are all different people who watch different things.
Yeah.
And the hope I think many of us feel with the national team is like, it could be the one point where people do come together. And so you could start to see like the power of it all. And a team playing like this against opponents that people are familiar with from a soccer point of view, that's going to pull those people in. And a team playing like this and putting results up, that's what's going to pull in casual fans who just want to root for a winner and to have something fun to be a part of. And I think this team over the last 2 days has really shown that. And I think over the Australia game, especially that first half, the style they played with, the swagger they played with, the intensity they played with, that's the stuff people have been asking for. And you take a look at 1994 and what like was the first breakthrough moment.
Yeah.
The U.S. scored 1 open field goal in that World Cup, and it was huge. You know, Ronaldo scores the free kick against Switzerland. They draw in the first game, and then, of course, Andres Escobar's own goal puts them ahead against Colombia, and then Ernie Stewart scores the lone open field goal. This team's got 6 freaking goals. Now, 2 of them are own goals, which is wild on its own.
Still counts.
But it still counts, but they've been able to put the ball in the back of the net a couple times. It's literal the Richter scale going off in Seattle, and all of this stuff is dream scenario for what this World Cup could be.
I'm going to push back on 2 things that I've also been seeing from people. It's one, the second half. It was not a good half.
Yeah.
And it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, the other team is playing desperate. They have
to.
And
it's totally normal. You've played the sport. I've played the sport, both on a pretty high level, not professionally, but on
you've played it higher than I have.
Okay, well, I'm trying to give you a compliment here. I mean, but you anyways, going back to my point, it's completely normal. It's human nature. When you're dominating a game, you're 2-0, And I know 2-0 is a tricky score, right? Because you get the 2-1 and then everything starts to, the momentum shifts and you start to panic a little bit. But it's normal. You're trying to control the game, right? And this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. You already have 3 points in the back. You're winning 2-0. It's completely normal to drop back a little bit, sit.
Yeah.
And players get tired. Again, it's human nature. Now, are we worried that a team with more offensive punch than Paraguay and Australia are going to take advantage of those chances? Yeah. But the USMNT has shown against two teams that are very good defensively, very, very physical, that when the US needs to be the aggressor, they've done a pretty good job. And they have the quality, individual quality, and team quality to hurt you, right? So I wanted to push back on that and not make a big deal out of the second half. And the second one is tied to that. A lot of people saying, yeah, we beat Paraguay, we beat Australia. Who are they? Come on.
Yeah, you got to beat the teams at some point. Yeah.
I mean, first, you got to play your schedule. And second, in the past, right? In the past, months ago, when you thought about a CONMEBOL team, it was something like prohibited for the USMNT, right? When we talk up, the USMNT cannot square head-to-head against a CONMEBOL team. They will get destroyed. They will never qualify for a World Cup if they played in CONMEBOL. So now the US beats a CONMEBOL team without a doubt on any level of the match, and now we put it in question.
Yeah.
So I don't get that back and forth. Like, pick a side.
Yeah. And I think for the US, the opportunity you have here with this World Cup is you can put a lot of that to bed by if you keep getting results, no one can question it. Like, you have to keep playing teams.
Yeah.
And the teams now only get better. The games, the intensity only gets higher. And if the U.S. performs, there's going to be nothing left to say for a lot of people. That's not saying they're going to win the World Cup. That just says as you continue to roll forward. So then last night, obviously, Turkey falls 1-0 to Paraguay in the second game in the group, and it ends up putting the group, on the line, and now the U.S. has won the group. But before we get there, let's talk a little bit about some of the big-time performers, and we have our Football Manager Level Up segment, and we sort of said no one else fits this better than Alex Freeman. So this is our Level Up presented by Football Manager 26. Discovering the future stars of the sport is one of our favorite things about FM and about the World Cup. And now we are talking about Alex Freeman. And Matt Doyle said it yesterday. He is becoming one of the best young defenders on the planet. You take a look at the top right corner of what the value of this player can be. And you take a look as well about his positional flexibility now that he has shown what he has shown with the U.S. men's national team. A year and a half ago, as we covered him in Major League Soccer, he was a wingback, and he was a wingback because of his ability to change the game going forward. There wasn't a ton of confidence in him as a defender. Like, all of his attributes were almost as a winger, and now he pulls inside. He's playing as a right center back. He played as a true right back at Villarreal in La Liga. In the few appearances he made, he has shown how well-rounded his game has become and what's allowed him to sort of push his level up.
We spoke a little bit yesterday about the work that Oscar Pareja and Orlando City did with him. And you also mentioned how Orlando didn't push his timeline, and they work with him in his development. And shout out to Mauricio Pochettino, who mentioned by name Oscar Pareja on the press conference post-game yesterday. And by saying that
Alex... you'd like that. I saw that.
Papi. Alex Freeman can become one of the best defenders and one of the best in his position. That's what Mauricio Pochettino said. What I'm blown away, and I go back to the story or the anecdote that I was telling you yesterday when I spoke with Oscar before a Leagues Cup game last year when Alex was still on the team, playing, as you said, as a right back, was a right wing back in Orlando. And then he comes to the USMNT pre-Gold Cup and during Gold Cup, and he becomes this kind of a hybrid center back, right back. something that he didn't do until that time in Orlando. And Oscar was giving also compliments to Pochettino, and it was like a nice back and forth. And yesterday we got like the complete circle of Pochettino giving Pareja in Orlando his flowers. And between the USMNT and Orlando, they both starting to discover what this player could do. Mm-hmm. And Oscar told me, I'm blown away by the way Pochettino has been using Alex in the USMNT, but I'm not surprised because we know about his talent, right? Yeah. And again, people killed Pochettino of the decisions he made pre-Gold Cup and during Gold Cup by not calling some of the bigger names or some of the bigger names pulling themselves out. If that didn't happen, maybe Alex Freeman is not on this team.
Yeah.
So that's part of the process, and kudos and I want to give flowers to Mauricio Pochettino on that instance, because it's something that maybe people are not talking about enough right now.
And one of the other things to add, which I do think is one of the big developments in American soccer, is I do think 10, 15, 20 years ago, Alex Freeman right now would be a center forward or a center back because he's a great athlete and he's a great soccer player. And he would have been in a team where winning would have been the main key, where nowadays you have professional pipelines who can come to a player and say, listen, you're special. What we think your ceiling is if we slide you here and you become an expert at this, then you could go play in La Liga. And there's good things about the other side, like learning how to be a winner, being a leader in your team. There's parts of that are super valuable. I think it's one of the things some people feel like we're losing, and that's part of what you have to fight to sort of keep. But, Peyton Miller goes in this conversation. Obviously, we've seen Caleb Wiley go over into Europe where 10, 15 years ago, those players would be learning how to play fullback at 21 years old for the first time in a professional level in Europe against guys who had been raised in that position and were experts in that thing. And that's one of the things that the professional youth development pipeline gives you, is a little bit more forward thinking in terms of players' career and a little bit less day-to-day of how do we win a tournament this weekend and how do we continue to progress in the league that we're in. And it's been a huge deal for Alex Freeman. He now goes into a list of players we've talked about on this show. Ayub Buadi, we've talked about Yan Diamande, some of the best young players on the planet. Alex Freeman is putting his name up there. And if the U.S. continues to progress in this tournament, one, Villarreal is going to be loving themselves for the amount of money they spent. But two, I think he's going to be in a conversation for young player of this tournament. So make sure to go check out Football Manager 26 International Mode. It's now available. You can download on Steam or on your favorite console, PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo Switch. Before we jump into the Turkey-Paraguay game, I just want to ask real quick. So the U.S. has already clinched first top spot. They will play Turkey on June 25th. They will then play on July 1st at Levi Stadium. So they're base camped in Orange County. So they will have to travel to the Bay Area. Very easy travel for them. For that final group stage game, we now know and are confirmed. Tyler Adams, Jedi Robinson, Flor Balogun, and Chris Richards all are sitting on yellow cards. If any of them pick up a yellow card in that game, they would be suspended for the game on July 1st. After that game, yellow cards will wipe out, and then you are back into the knockout rounds. On top of that, Christian Pulisic did not play yesterday because of his injury. He was unavailable. Now, there is not a limit to the amount of players you can put on your bench for a World Cup game. So this wasn't a situation where there's the Matchday 18 and he's unavailable, so you don't put him in. That means he really could not play. He couldn't warm up. He couldn't be a part of things if you're officially saying that before the game starts externally. There's no advantage to that. Who do you think plays in this third game? How do you think they handle it?
I think everyone plays except Pulisic.
Okay. Even the yellow card guys.
It's 11 days. Yeah. And we've been in this position before, and I've asked directly coaches and players, 11 days is too long to not play.
Yeah.
When you need the rhythm. And you're going to ask me, well, what about Pulisic? Pulisic he's dealing with an injury. You need that to heal. But players that are in rhythm, that have been playing like these four guys, you need to trust them. Like Tyler, yesterday, in a very physical game, he was playing on a yellow, and he didn't got the yellow.
Yeah.
So you need to trust them. And players play.
Right.
11, again, if you're telling me it's 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, 11, it's too long of a rest for a player to not see competitive action. That doesn't mean they're going to play 90 minutes. But I will be shocked if those players don't see some minutes or start, and then you take them out at halftime.
Yeah. I think that's probably where it'll land. I think Pochettino also wants the group together.
Yes.
He started Florian Balogun and Pepe together last game. It was the first time they'd ever started together. So he's had to throw some first times out there because he hasn't been with the group. Under Pochettino, yeah, because he hasn't been with the group very long. But I think the preference would be, as you said, to keep things rolling forward. Reminder, we will have our pregame show on SoccerWise. We will do a preview for you a few days before the game. It'll be out on our podcast feeds. And then we will do a live postgame show coming out of that Turkey game. And we will be celebrating a little because the U.S. will have clinched first place in the World Cup group, as we already know. And it's very, very exciting.
I have a question for you about Pochettino. Do you think this success helps or hurts U.S. soccer chances of keeping him post-World Cup?
I think there's no world he stays.
I agree.
From both sides.
I agree.
And I think that's fine. I think he was hired for a job. The job was to progress in this World Cup. As much as U.S. Federation talked, I think JT Batson was quoted a little bit coming into these friendlies when was it the Real Madrid or Milan job interview story came out where he's like, oh, he's so excited about the future, whatever. This is not the guy you hired to develop the program. Yeah. That's the next coach, and that's what you're looking for from that next coach. And I think for Pochettino, he was looking for a restart to his career to reestablish who he was, and part of that is always going to come from time away because I think people have incorrect views on coaches in general. It's like coach is trash, coach is good, and it's just based off their last result. And the longer you go away, look at Mourinho. Mourinho's Real Madrid coach again. That's insane to me. He's the exact same person he was, but time away helps people sort of get more excited. So I think there's no world in which the two parties are coming back together, and that's fine.
I promise you, this morning or last night, his agent or agent's phone is blowing up.
For sure.
Now you see in England, where Pochettino has made a career as a coach, shows are praising him.
Yeah.
I was looking at a clip of, I think it was Wayne Rooney and some pundits in England talking about Pochettino masterclass.
Yeah.
What he's doing with the USMNT.
I posted, there's a guy from Nigeria that I love watching his videos. He does reaction videos, and he keeps calling the US PSG, which I think is so funny. He's like, they're playing like PSG. Did they steal them at the Club World Cup and put them into this team? That's the territory we are in right now. The history for the U.S., clinching first place in the group for the third time, comes because of Paraguay's 1-0 victory over Turkey in the late game.
Oh, last thing. As of now, it looks like the most probable rival for the U.S. in round of 32 is going to be Bosnia.
Yeah.
As of now.
Yeah.
Obviously, it could change, but...
they will be a third-place team if they get there. This is Paraguay's 1-0 victory over Turkey. So Turkey officially eliminated from the World Cup. Paraguay remain alive after their big loss to the U.S. Paraguay still has work to do. So they're sitting on 3 points. They're on negative goal differential. So they need to either beat Australia head-to-head or they need to put together enough of a performance to potentially save themselves for a third-place group across the tournament. But this one got started quickly. Fastest goal of the World Cup so far. Matias Galarza's goal was 1 minute and 4 seconds in. So it is the quickest one we've had in this World Cup. It's the fastest since a goal in 2018. That was in 55 seconds for Denmark against Croatia. And the story of this game was then the red card for Miguel Almiron in the 45th plus stoppage time. It was the first red card we've seen at this World Cup for covering your mouth while talking, which is, of course, a rule that has come in place after the Champions League, in which there was an incident where a Benfica player said something to Vinicius Jr. He claimed it was racist. They came back and said, no, it was just homophobic, which is such a great cop-out for the Benfica players, the Argentina players, and everyone else involved. And as a solution to that, FIFA and IFAB, one of the rules that have come in specifically for this World Cup is that any player who covers their mouth and talks to an opponent automatically receives a red card. It doesn't matter what they said, doesn't matter the context. Clearly, the Turkey player knew that because Almiron covers his mouth and immediately the Turkey player turns and starts yelling to the referee. Then Ivan Bartone, who was the referee of this game, who was a CONCACAF referee, who walked out on the field with the players holding the ball, and I said, uh-oh, because I've watched that guy ref some big Champions League games in CONCACAF, and they have never gone straight forward. He goes over, he sees it, very straightforward. It's a red card. Miguel Almiron, obviously, not understanding the situation, not understanding the new rule, makes a mistake, and he gets a red card. Can I go on a rant for a second here?
I thought you already started.
This is a solution to a symptom. And this is the global soccer sphere. This is humanity right now. This is high-level organization, and this is FIFA to a T. This doesn't solve anything. And I don't care about the red card. I don't care about the way it affects the game. Miguel Almiron is an idiot. He did something wrong. He gets a red card. His team somehow still won. We'll talk about that in a little bit. That's fine. This is FIFA spending time to fix something without actually caring about the root of the problem and actually having a plan to fix it. You want to end racism, which is like a great phrase to use and is a fake one to use because it doesn't actually mean anything and there's no plan. This is not how you do it, by stopping people from covering their mouths so that you can target them for racism. Ending racism is by having actual consequences for people throughout your organization that are racist, throughout your sphere that are racist, and doing educational work for young people so that they don't develop into racists. And unfortunately, this is something in our global society that is taught. No one is born racist, right? Everyone learns it, and it has to be untaught. You don't unteach it by punishing someone for covering their mouth at 29 years old at an international sporting event. You go in to places where young players are, which guess what? That's where youth soccer lives. And you educate people from a young age and you teach them and you have these global moments where people get to meet each other and you fight against this consistently. And this is the, I'm going to show a flashy thing and then not actually care move. It's what frustrates me. You should be putting billions of dollars into this if this is the most important thing to do. And you should have educational programs and you should have different programs. And then you should have effects and responsibilities for people who aren't just players. Because the problems are in the stands, but they're also in the front offices and they're also in all of the executive committees. And we can guess, I'm not saying anyone specific because I don't actually know, that there is a lot of racism that has happened in these different rooms of power. And those people aren't punished. And that's what comes down from the top. And whatever Miguel Almiron said in one game, as bad as it could have been, that, and we don't even know if it is, that's not the problem. That is a symptom in a small
He's
symptom.
not going to fix anything.
That is going in, having someone who has a full body disease and popping the pimple on their right arm and saying, we fixed the issue. And that is the minor stuff that they choose to make the entire issue. And it goes back to even to the last World Cup with the gay pride armband, which wasn't allowed to be used in Qatar. That whole fight is fantastic. That is the smallest part of the issue of homophobia in the world of soccer and the world, because soccer represents the world. So all of these negativities that we see in the sport, they are not representing soccer. It is that soccer is the lone sport that actually truly represents the global experience. And unfortunately, a lot of these things are root issues in them. And FIFA doesn't care about that, because if that was the case, then if Qatar refuses to recognize gay players, then they wouldn't be allowed to play in a World Cup. But that's a seat of power that they don't want to challenge. So you end up with, if you cover your mouth with your hand, you get a red card in a soccer game. That will never affect anyone going forward. I
agree. I have nothing to add. It reminds me to what the NFL did. Put like end racism in the end zone.
Exactly.
We fixed racism.
While you have owners coming in calling, yeah, for sure.
Calling the players inmates.
Yeah.
Running the asylum.
Yeah.
That's what's happening here.
Yep. Okay, so now that we got over that one, here's a wild fact. 4 teams in the last, I only saw back through 30 years, have won a World Cup game after getting a red card in the first half. 2 of them are Paraguay. Paraguay did it in 2002 against Slovenia. Portugal did it against Netherlands, which you remember is the Battle of the Burn or whatever it was, in 2006 when the Netherlands and Portugal had like a combined 19 yellow cards and 10 red cards. Belgium did it to South Korea in 2014 in Brazil, and then Paraguay did it again. And it goes to, I mean, you know better than me, operating in CONMEBOL, Guarani, the fighting spirit. Like, if any team's going to do it, it's going to be Paraguay. I don't know if they don't score early, if they ever get a goal in this game. If they're up 1-0, I don't know what happens. But like, if anyone's going to be comfortable in this moment, it's them. And then on the flip side, it was the same story from Australia. It was a Turkey team that settled for long shots. They have taken 62 shots and have not scored a goal in this tournament.
It ended up being a very exciting game because of the consequences and what's at stake. But at the same time, Paraguay scoring in the first minute was the worst thing that could happen to that game.
For sure.
Because we already knew what was going to happen.
Right.
It was going to be all Turkey because that's the way Paraguay qualified to a World Cup, especially after Alfaro took over. Mm-hmm. In 12 games, they lost one time, bunker up, received just 8 goals, 10 goals total. I think in goal qualifiers, it was the second best defensive team behind Ecuador. Mm-hmm. But especially without Alfaro, we've seen him with Alfaro before in Costa Rica. It's try to get the first goal and then bunker up. We're going to win 1-0. We're going to be scrappy. We're going to be physical. And that's the Paraguay that we were expecting against the USMNT. Yeah. But that's where I go back to USMNT and give them credit. The USMNT went full pedal to the metal. It's like, no, we're not going to let you do that. We're going to punish you first, and then you're going to have to come back. And Paraguay can't come back. Yeah. This is the way. And it's something similar to what we're going to see maybe with Mexico. Mexico, that's in a better way. Mexico is a team that is looking to go one up and then control the game. Yeah. Being good defensively, being very pragmatic. Of course, Paraguay doesn't have the talent that, for example, Mexico has. So they got to be even more scrappy, even scrappier, right. Even more physical. And honestly, it was just at the end, just bunker up, park the bus, and just pray. And that's what happened. And the Turkey couldn't score, period. And there's no other story of the game.
Yeah, and a lot of this is this weird in-between of like Cooler and Yildiz and Shangalagu. Like the talent they have is elite. If they hit a ball cleanly, it's going in.
Yeah.
The option to hit it so early, so often was the story of the Australia game, and it was the story of this game as well of like they beat a defender, but you're still 32 yards away, and you're like, oh, there's an opening. And then the shot gets ripped, and a lot of them were deflected. They don't even get to goal.
It's also like desperation. We're talking about human nature.
But
desperation, you're fighting the clock.
But that's in the 32nd minute. That's in the 55th minute. Like, that's where you have to have some sort of culture as a team that you don't go into desperation immediately, especially after the experience you came out of. It's why I think Montelo's probably done with this group. I'd be surprised if he's brought back. And it goes into qualifying where they put together a good performance against Spain and then they struggle to get performances against some of the lower teams, hence why they ended up in a playoff.
We talked about this yesterday. I was worried about how Turkey was going to deal with the pressure.
Yeah.
And how they were going to come off to the field after the disaster of the first game. Because the first game was an absolute disaster. Mm-hmm. Against Australia. Since before the game with Çalhanoğlu telling the press and the media, we're going to dominate Australia. And then after the game, it's like, okay, what happened? No, we're the better team.
Yeah.
And then Vincenzo Montella with very questionable choices in the starting 11, losing that game against Australia, and now having the pressure ramp up to 1,000,000, having to win against Paraguay, because you also have the pressure that the USMNT put on you, right? Because if you didn't get the result, it's not that you're out. You don't even have a chance to do anything.
Yeah.
And or if you got a tie or if you won, you're still in the back of your mind, it's like, oh, look at the USMNT, right? And now we have to play them on the last game. Right. So I think between what Montella did with his question marks, it was clearly a showing of a team that had a lot of individual talent that never found a cohesive work as a team, if I can say that way, right?
Yeah.
Because when you see Turkey, as individuals, and I mentioned this yesterday, you could make a case that they have more individual talent than even the USMNT.
Which is the case many people made coming into the tournament.
I thought Turkey was going to win the green.
Yeah, which is the case they made
3 months ago.
Yeah, and I never did, because this has been the story of the Turkish national team outside of 2008 and 2002, their entire history. You have 3 of the biggest clubs in Europe. You probably have 3 of the 10 biggest clubs in Besiktas, Fenerbahce, and Galatasaray outside of the big 5 leagues on the planet, right? You're talking River, Boca, Fla-Flu, pick another team from Sao Paulo. You're talking outside of that, Olympiacos, Panathinaikos, Red Star, Al-Ahly.
Galatasaray and Fenerbahce are bigger than all of those clubs.
Some of the South African clubs, Al-Ahly, Raja Casablanca. As you go around the world, Club America, those are the biggest teams outside of what are known as the 5 big leagues and the Champions League teams and all of that. Ajax, I guess, in theory, because Dutch League is not one of the 5, and maybe you bring in a Copenhagen or something. These 3 clubs are in the top 10 outside of that, which means outside of the classic teams that have won a World Cup, you should be one of the best on the planet, and that has never been the case. And a lot of that seems to come down to an inability to get them to play as a team across the board, tournament after tournament after tournament, or if they can even qualify. And that's the case for Turkey once again in this one. On the flip side for Paraguay, obviously they won't have Miguel Almiron for the next game. This is not the deepest team. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. I didn't think Sanabria should start for this team. I thought they would go no striker because he has been such a struggle. And then you see Isidro Pita get the start for this game, and it's like, where the hell has this been? He's dangerous. He's efficient in his movements. Everything is aggressive going forward. It was anything you would have wanted against the U.S. in transition that they didn't have. So I would assume Pita gets the start once again, and then they have to decide what they want to do in place of Almiron. Obviously, probably Galarza comes back in. Maybe you go 3 center mids. This will be an interesting game now, because for Paraguay and Australia, in the last game of the group, neither of them have had to push the play. They have both been reactive.
Yeah.
Someone will have to be proactive in this game. I assume it's Paraguay, because Australia is in a better position on goal differential. If Australia ties this game, they qualify as the second place team in this group.
Yeah.
So they've got less to play for. On the flip side for Australia,
well, you would think that a tie benefits both.
Paraguay will
with
be on 4
points,
but their goal differential will be pretty tough. So they would be looking out at the best third place teams and hoping that there are 6 that have 3 points or less, which is a very big possibility.
Yeah.
But for this Australia team, Nestor Iracunda has to be in the starting lineup. I think Volpato has to be in the starting lineup. He set the record for Australian players with take-ons 1 in the last game. He only played the second half. Iracunda came off the bench. He was the most important player for this team. So Popovic has a chance to fix the mistakes he made.
Going back to Australia, I was watching the
Australian media. It's been kind of delicious. They've been ripping this team.
Yeah, and Popovic was questioned about his choices on the post-game conference, and he said, besides giving the USMNT a lot of credit, one, he kind of blamed the heat. It was 70 degrees in Seattle. Give me a break. 75. Then he said, when he was questioned about the choices, he said, and I quote, "I don't think different players would have made a difference." That, my friend, quoting the great Laszlo Cravensworth of one of the best TV shows ever, What We Do in the Shadows, that is the bullshit, my friend. Popovic, you made a mistake. You lost the game before the game even started.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. Also, that means either you're not good enough or your game plan was bad. Because if the players don't make a difference, what could make a difference? Like, what out there could possibly do?
That was
all right.
Crazy.
Group D is in the books. The U.S. has won. Reminder, again, we will have our live shows post-game every single game. Let's move on to Group C now. Let's start with Scotland against Morocco. It was right after the U.S. game finished. Morocco scored what was the fastest goal of the World Cup until the Paraguay game came about 8 hours later. It was 70 seconds for Ismail Saibari to score the opener against Scotland. This one up in Boston, so Scotland got to stay and play back-to-back. Morocco holds on for a 1-0 victory. They are 6 straight unbeaten in the World Cup group stage, 3-3, and this 6th FIFA World Cup victory levels them with Ghana and Nigeria for an African nation. They are leading the line for dark horses. They are leading in terms of African teams' performance at the World Cup. Obviously, they're the first to make it to a semifinal. We talked about Buadi and what he brings. There's young players in this group who have refreshed things, and it feels very much, obviously, you'd expect maybe more goals as they got ahead, but it felt very much in control for this Morocco team.
And it's a really good sign of how a team and players mature and understand the moment. Like, yeah, you might be a little bit underwhelming by the final result, but you saw a Morocco team that understood the moment, understood the rival, understood their game, and they said, we're good. We're going to control the game.
Yeah.
We have the 3 points. Scotland is not.
0 shots on goal in this game for Scotland. This is exactly who they are. And this was why the World Cup final for Haiti and Scotland was the opening game.
Yeah.
Because...
Yeah, you said it.
These teams are going to struggle to beat the other teams in 2 different ways.
Yeah.
Scotland, better defensively, terrible in the attack. And this is the frustration for Scotland fans with Steve Clarke, because it feels very one note. It's very direct. There's not a lot of ingenuity into the attack. There's not a lot of patterns of play on the ground. Everything is wide balls and crosses played in. And if you don't win those, and this is a pretty comfortable situation for Morocco backline with a ton of experience and a ton of physicality, there's nothing left to play on for you.
Yeah, and now Scotland has to face Brazil on the last game. Morocco against 80 with the opportunity of score a lot against 80 and win the group against Brazil. Because now this group is going to be, because Brazil and Morocco tied, is going to be defined by goal differential. But again, to close my point with Morocco, I really like what I saw in the sense of, like, we're a young team. Our midfielder is literally 18 years old, and he's alongside Alex Freeman, the front runner for best young player in the tournament, because Javier Aguirre doesn't want to play Gilberto Mora, but that's another story.
Wait about 10 hours, because Jan Diamande is going to play against Germany today, and everyone's going to see it.
Okay, we'll see. Morocco, we don't have to kill each other. Like, we don't have to kill ourselves.
Yeah.
The tournament hasn't really started.
Which is the thing that the powerhouses do.
Yeah.
It's very rare for a team who's not to come to a World Cup and say, we know we'll be here for a while.
Yeah.
Let's manage the experience.
Exactly right.
It's a great point, and it really shows what they learned from the last World Cup and have brought through. We mentioned on the show yesterday, I believe French authorities have brought a rape case against Achraf Hakimi, the captain of this team. That will obviously be a huge sporting story going forward. It will also be a huge human interest story off the field, and we will continue to cover it as more news comes out in this one. And as you mentioned, the other side of Group C, Brazil versus Haiti. This was a vibes game. Brazil crowds are special. World Cups are special. I've said it over and over. To me, Brazil in a World Cup, that's the unity. That's perfection to me. And this team has struggled at times over the last 20 years on the field. And this was an odd story for them in the game. They start Mateus Cunha, which many have asked for. He scores 2 goals. It is, here's the solution. You figured it out. And I also will point out Danilo starting at right back, a actual natural fullback who does get forward, who does give width, helped as well.
An experienced guy too.
Yeah. And then Raphinha pulls up with an injury, who is the third most important player on the team.
I will say the most important player.
Okay.
He's the one that makes all the runs. He's the one that works off the ball the most. We don't know the injury yet. Some reports have said hamstring. We gotta wait and see which grade it is, because he could be ready for the next game, or he could miss a couple of weeks, and by that time the World Cup might be over for Brazil. I'm extremely underwhelmed by this Brazilian team. Mm-hmm. Again, I know it's a tough ask for this generation of players to be constantly reminded and constantly compared to Brazil of all days, right?
Yeah. To the greatest teams of all time.
The greatest. The best two teams of all time have been Brazil 1970 and Brazil 2002. Of all time, not just Brazil, of all time. The best World Cup winners have been those two.
2010 Spain, but yes.
Okay?
In the convo.
In the combo.
Yeah.
Not my choice, but in the combo. And I know it's a lot to ask, right? And when you're a player like Vinicius and you play at Real Madrid, you're a big star. Off the field, on the field, the pressure ramps up because you are supposed to be the guy.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know what to make of this team, and I go back to my original point before the World Cup started. If you tell me that they get eliminated on the round of 32, or you tell me, no, they're going to win the World Cup, I'll say, okay. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't be surprised by any outcome.
So here's a huge factor.
And sorry.
Yeah.
Casemiro, he doesn't have it.
No.
He doesn't have it anymore at this level.
I was surprised that wasn't one of the changes.
He doesn't have it.
The issue is the backup option right now is Fabinho.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that he has it either. So I understand the move at right back for Danilo, a more natural right back, to bring a little bit of more width into the team. You understand the move with Cunha because not only did it work, he seems to, one, play with more confidence. Two, listen, Haiti's not the highest level opponent.
No.
But it's very clear what Brazil did, which is they had Raphinha and Vinicius pinch to press off the wide players to funnel Haiti central and dare Haiti to beat them. And Cunha is very good at shadow marking, coming underneath. Shadow marking is knowing where the center mids are behind you, being in those passing lanes, launching into those passing lanes to win that first ball or second ball. And then you start the counterattack, and that's what leads to the second goal for this team. So he fits in very well in some of these roles. That's why I assumed he would start. To me, I've said over and over, Vinicius, the most important player on this team, he played better when Cunha was out there. They also played a worse opponent. And that's where I think it's hard to judge Brazil. But let me point this out there as we take a look at the standings for this group in Group C. And it is a big game coming up in that final game because the winner of this group will head to Houston and play on June 29th. The runner-up of this group will go to Mexico and play in Monterrey on June 29th. So the gap there, and you play the winner of Group F. The gap there of playing indoor or outdoor, playing at altitude and not, and then also the difference between playing a runner-up and first place is massive. What it stands with is, you mentioned it, Morocco will have to match Brazil's result and better their goal differential. So if Brazil's going to beat Scotland, Morocco has to be scoreboard watching. The end of the group, every team will play simultaneous, and we kind of will go back in time a little as now it's been changed to head-to-head. But goal differential used to be the decider, and it will be in many of these cases in tiebreakers, and it will come down to who can win by more goals, which ends up getting us into loopy spaces. But that's the reality of where we're going to be going into the next set of games to finish out the group. We've got a lot of games coming up today. Before we get there, real quick, Jordan, throw my computer up there for anyone watching. For anyone listening, I'll talk you through this, but our data partners at Gradient Sports put out some physical metric stuff on Instagram from this tournament so far. And when you take a look at sprint distance versus walking distance, no player has covered more distance walking at the World Cup so far than Cristiano Ronaldo, over 4 kilometers in that first game. There's been a little bit of conversation about how he fits.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at a comment.
At what?
I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at a comment that I just read on the live chat.
Okay,
so,
well, I am laughing at Cristiano Ronaldo and his walking.
We are all laughing.
He has outwalked Messi. He's slightly outwalked Erling Haaland. He has outwalked Semenyo. These are some of the best players in the world, and a lot of times they walk because they let the game find them in between. But if you don't score goals and you don't sprint as well, and you can see the sprint distance for all the other players on this list who, when they go, and that's where Marmoush and Semenyo and Nicky Jackson and Leroy Sané, all attacking players, have massive sprint distances alongside their walk distance. So I thought that was very interesting to put out there. And then the player who got injured, Raphinha, leads the World Cup so far in sprints and high-speed runs. but it is amazing that Ivan Perisic still is like 4th on this list after all he's been through. Elise on this list as well, pretty high up, which is not a huge surprise with how central he has become to everything he does. And then max speed versus sprint distance. Iracunda, the fastest player right now at this World Cup, followed up by Dembele, Mbappe, Jed Spence, Semenyo, Richie Larea, all players that are like world-class speed. And this young Australian is above them. And guess what? He did not start in his team's
I was going to tell, do you know who could have used him yesterday? His own team.
Absolutely.
From the start.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Jordan, for that one and for humoring me. Let's dig through what we've got on tap for today as we get into it. The Netherlands faces off against Sweden, 1 p.m. Eastern time. That one is in Houston. We then, of course, end the day with the other match of the Netherlands group with Tunisia versus Japan. And then right there in the middle, what a beauty. Germany versus Ivory Coast at BMO in Toronto, 4 p.m. Eastern time. And Ecuador try and save their World Cup in Kansas City this evening, 8 p.m. Eastern time against Curaçao. Let's start with this Netherlands-Sweden game. Michele, I don't think we'd expect to have said this. Sweden leads the group. Mm-hmm. Massive goal differential off the 5-1 win over Tunisia. They are in the driver's seat, and the Dutch were okay. Ronald Koeman apologized, I believe, in the media for his substitutions patterns as well as some of his lineup decisions. And Netherlands, this becomes a must-win game for them.
Netherlands and Japan played probably the most exciting half of soccer that we've seen in the World Cup. And I think Netherlands, this iteration of the Netherlands, coached by one of his biggest legends, is Ronald Koeman, it's living by their name. Mm-hmm. I don't think this is a phenomenal Netherlands team. Yeah, you have a fantastic world-class center back as Virgil van Dijk. Actually, he scored one of the games against Japan, and he's an asset on every set piece. But Netherlands is a difficult team to predict because I don't think they have. Obviously, they don't have the individual talent of the past.
Yeah,
and Ronald Koeman historically hasn't been known for being a genius tactician and a coach that is gonna take the best out of their players.
Yeah.
So when I hear that he's apologizing for the sub patterns, for me he's apologizing because he couldn't find a way to keep the 1-0 or keep the 2-1.
Yeah.
So
they could never stem the tide, and that was the issue there.
Right. And so
they didn't just defend against Japan; they had 9 in the box.
Yeah. In the past, I mean, the nickname it's been the Orange Clockwork.
Yeah.
But this is not clearly that team. So this is a really good test against a Sweden that has been a surprise. If you see what they did in qualifiers, they were
the worst team.
The worst team in qualifiers, and they got in by a wild card through Nations League, and they ended up being on the World Cup. And you can identify individual talent, Victor Gyökeres, Isaac. So you tend to recognize some of the Swedish players, but we don't know much about Sweden because in the qualifiers they were basically done out, terrible. And I think this is going to be a good test for both teams. Now that you need to, especially if you're the Netherlands, you need to get 2 points.
And we'll be back tomorrow to talk, obviously, in the morning. We're going to learn a little bit of if Sweden loses this game, now what is game plan of how do you manage goal differential on 3 points? Because if you get it right, you're probably through. Do you almost go defensive not to lose by too much? And we'll see how Sweden plays this game out. If they go down 1 or 2-0, like how do they manage from that point on versus trying to go out and win the game, which would be the case at other times.
And they beat Tunisia, who fired their coach
for sure.
So we don't know anything about Sweden.
100%. But the goal differential was so great; it was probably enough to get through, depending on what they do. For this Dutch team, one of the huge things to note: Frankie De Jong has been dealing with a bit of an injury. This team is, from a results point of view, 2 different teams if he's in the team or not. The injury is, I don't know, lower body something. He all of a sudden plays in the NHL, so we don't know if he'll be in the starting lineup. If he's not, it would be a huge loss for this team. I thought Gravenbach was good in the last game. There is high expectations for Reinders, as there should be with the way he's played with Manchester City. But there will be even more responsibility on their shoulders if that's the case in this one. I will note, you mentioned the Clockwork Orange. I didn't know this until today. Apparently, in 1974, when these two teams played, it was the first time Cruyff did the Cruyff turn in a game. Mm-hmm. So this is a historic rematch from that first World Cup meeting. I would assume Cruyff was doing it his whole life, but maybe that's the moment everyone registers it with. Or back then, you couldn't really see a whole lot of stuff on TV. So maybe that was the first time anyone noticed. It is one of the great moments in soccer history because the Cruyff turn is beautiful when it's done correctly. So that is the game at 1 p.m. Eastern time. On that side of things, we then go forward to the final match of the night, Tunisia versus Japan, which will close out this group. This game will be the 1,000th FIFA Men's World Cup match all time. So 1930, the World Cup debuted in Uruguay. It was kind of simultaneous. France played Mexico and Montevideo, and the U.S. played Belgium. And we have continued to talk about that 1930 World Cup because the last time the U.S. played really well at a World Cup until right now. And now this game will be the 1,000th one. And we'll have a second piece of history because Hervé Renard takes over this team.
The most handsome man in the world.
And he is an expert in what he's being asked to do, which is manage okay teams through tournaments. I didn't realize this. Coaches have been fired at World Cups before. Mm-hmm. A coach had never been fired from a team that hadn't been eliminated yet. So he is going to be the first coach ever to take over a team during a World Cup group stage that still has the potential to move on. We're in uncharted territories, baby.
Heady play from Tunisia.
Yeah.
Now Turkey is going to fire Montella. For what? For what? You're already done.
That one's a little bit more common, clearly, as we've seen. And for
what do you think Renard was when he got the news?
Floating on
a super yacht.
Yeah.
With
living his dream. Yeah.
And always with a
white linen button down.
The white shirt with the hair flowing.
He's gonna be back in form. He's
also
ready
always
to roll.
Perfectly tan.
And so they stay in Monterrey, Mexico. So Tunisia played the last game there. So there's a little bit of an advantage. Japan comes from playing an indoor game. So now they have to come to altitude with a little bit more humidity for this game. But obviously the 5-1 loss for Tunisia puts their backs against the wall. With the nature of the tournament, Tunisia has the runway to try and get out. But they probably need 4 points. That's just how bad that first defeat was.
Yeah.
So they probably would need to beat a Japan or Netherlands, and they would need to draw a Japan or Netherlands. So that's a lot to go up against. On the flip side for Japan, as that game went along, they started to find their feet again. They came into this tournament without, I would say, their two most important players in possession in Mitoma and Endo. And so it is going to take some time to find who are the solutions in the attack and in possession. And this is a game that Japan's probably going to have to push the play a little bit. And so I think we're going to learn even more about this group going into this game. After that, we have, of course, the two games in the middle of the day, and that is in Group E. And it starts with Germany versus Ivory Coast, 4 p.m. Eastern time. They are both sitting in first place. Germany, of course, walloped Curaçao in the first game, so the goal differential high on their side. For Ivory Coast, it feels like the real only path forward to winning this group is by knocking off Germany in this game. And I'm excited because this is a German national team that has struggled over the last, basically since they won the World Cup in 2014. Going out against Curaçao, that's great. This is a different story. And I think Ivory Coast should have the confidence that they can go and get a win.
Yeah, but I mean, Ivory Coast still has to play Curaçao in the last game.
Yeah.
So there's no panic.
But I think if I'm Ivory Coast, you play free. Because you have a chance here to go and steal 3 points. And if you don't,
we agree.
You're probably still going to go into it. But that's the best way to go up against a German team. If they win this game, it would be the biggest win in the country's history from a World Cup. Like, it would be things they've never done before. And I really think what we saw from the first game, this group's capable of it.
Yeah.
I think the young attacking players in the wide areas are special.
I think,
And the central midfield is special.
Yeah, I think this game is going to be the classic. Germany's going to have the ball. They're going to be the aggressor. They're going to try to dictate the tempo of the game, having all the early chances. And Ivory Coast, like you said, with the result on hand against Ecuador. And this is kind of what they did in the first game. But now, even against a better team with more offensive player, they're going to sit on a low block and they're just going to try to hurt Germany on the offensive transition. I think that's the way this game is going to go. And if Germany can get a goal in the early minutes, that might change. But then again, let's say you're Ivory Coast and you concede in the first 10 minutes, thinking that you have Curaçao in the last game. How much effort are you going to put in trying to chase this game if you're down against Germany?
Whatever it is, I'm going to win. I'm not trying to sneak a tie. I don't care about goal differential. Like, if you're Ivory Coast, no matter what, you're opening up, because the 3 points is more valuable than anything negative that can happen to you, because you believe you're going to go and win that third group stage game. So that's where I think no matter what, this game doesn't close down. Maybe it becomes subs, and your point is you save the legs of a Jan Diamande, you save the legs of a Frank Kessie, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But in terms of intent and style, I don't think that shifts because of the opportunity you have. Huge note here, El Wahi, who got the start in the opening game at the center forward position, has been brought up on charges for potential match fixing issues over a month ago in a friendly in France. So the news came out. It was a little confusing. It sounded like he had been arrested, which is not the case.
No, he was arrested 2 weeks before.
But because of that, he was originally denied his visa to enter Canada, coming from the U.S., where Ivory Coast is base camped in Wilmington, Delaware. They reapplied and his visa was granted. I don't know how that changes. I don't know who the customs officer in Canada is who watches soccer games and is like, yeah, no, that looks purposeful. That looks not. Whatever it is, he is now allowed into the country. That is a huge factor in this team. It is going to be a sideshow. I would be surprised if they played him. If I'm Ivory Coast, I don't risk the perception of my team. Also, you don't know where this is going, and you don't know what the issues he's experiencing are. And the issues being, most of the time when we see something like this, there's external pressure happening on athletes, and you don't know who is applying that and if they're continuing to. If I'm Ivory Coast, I just don't risk it, and I don't play him in this game until I understand more about it. No matter what, it's going to be part of the conversation around this team. So it's a huge factor to consider as they go into this one. Kai Havertz, of course, a hot start to the tournament. Germany across the board, a hot start. This is their first big test, and I'm really excited to watch this game. And then the last game in this Group E, Ecuador against Curaçao, both of them coming on 0 points. And we knew the story for Ecuador. It was about goals and goal scoring. It wasn't there for them. And I think if you're Curaçao, you have to have belief, because this is an Ecuador attack that struggles. So you should be able to hang in this game. If you can steal the 3 points, who the hell knows what happens going forward.
I was crushed about how Ecuador lost the game against the Ivory Coast. You had the conversation, and I think we all agree that if Ecuador had half a decent striker, there will be a world-class, legit contender in this World Cup. They're the best defensive team in this tournament. They were the best defensive team in CONMEBOL. They have a great midfield. They are great everywhere except up top. And at the end, you need to score goals. And they didn't do that against the Ivory Coast, which we knew it was going to be the big issue with this Ecuador team.
Hit the post 3 times in that game.
Can they finish? Can they finish? They didn't against Ivory Coast. I'm expecting them to win comfortably against Curaçao, but then on the next game is Germany, and then if you start moving forward in the tournament, like, how is that going to hurt you? And I believe, like you, that this Ecuador team can make a deep run in this World Cup, but they need to start putting the ball in the back of the net, because if not, we're going to see the same game that we saw against the Ivory Coast on repeat.
And you now get into a situation with the head-to-head where Ecuador is chasing because they've lost head-to-head to Ivory Coast. So in theory, let's just game out. Ivory Coast draws Germany. Ecuador wins this game. Ecuador draws Germany. Or whatever it is, however it is. If Ivory Coast and Ecuador end up on the same points, there's no goal differential that saves Ecuador, because they've lost that head-to-head.
Right.
So Ecuador really needs to win out at this point to guarantee their spot in second place in the group. And that means they'd have to beat Germany, but it starts here today
And
this
this
game.
is exactly why I like the head-to-head rules.
Yeah.
Because if goal differential would have been in this group the defining factor, then it's all about who can score more goals against Curaçao.
For sure.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
this is what I like. And this is a good example of the head-to-head rule being the first tiebreaker that I support.
Yeah. And I can't imagine to me a better sporting decision than the two teams played each other and one team won. There's no world in which there's another scenario which we're the better team. We lost to you head-to-head, but we beat them by more.
The same, and I'm going to take it on a different sport. College football. To get into a playoff, Miami against Notre Dame.
I cannot believe you brought the University of Miami and Notre Dame into the conversation around this. I hate this so
national
much.
championship. It's like they played. Miami beat Notre Dame.
Okay. I'm going to pivot here to something
Why?
I care about. Yeah, I know.
You live in Miami. Come on.
Honestly, I don't mind them. I just hate college football enough to not care about this. The runner-up in this group between Germany, Ivory Coast, Curaçao, and Ecuador will play the runner-up from the group of Norway, France, and Senegal and Iraq. And that's what's on the line for Germany, Ivory Coast, and Ecuador in these next two games.
It might be better to go as a third.
Win this group, put yourself in the driver's seat, runner-up against runner-up. There's a pretty good chance you're facing Norway, Senegal, or maybe France in the round of 32. There are going to be some tasty round of 32 matchups coming in this World Cup, and we are excited to talk about all of it. Thank you to you, Michele. Big shout out to Jordan, both the national team, the brand who reps Brazil, and the guy outside helping us run through this. Big shout to Ben. Thank you to Steve for getting up and working with us early.
Yeah.
Thank you to Mati down in Rosario for repping us and helping us out as well. Thank you to all of you helping on the back end, to Todd and to Katie, to Kuba, Antonelli, Will, everyone else. And as always, no thank you to Connor. And we will talk to you all again very, very soon.
Tomorrow.